Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
It's one mic. It's one mic.
Give me a moment, would you, friend? I've never been on trial for my thoughts before.
Welcome to the Only One Mic podcast called Gerard, Brooklyn Dre. Just Me is off tonight, and we are joined by Miss Kavon Ward. She is a poet, activist, founder of Justice for Bruce's Beach, and co-founder of Where Is My Land, excuse me. How you doing, Kavon?
Well. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for being here today.
A young legend is in the building, man.
Young legend is here.
Oh, I don't know about that, but okay.
You keep that between you and you. We looking at a young legend right now.
Young legend, man.
Thank you.
And we're going to tell you why you a legend, because you did something that people are fighting to do right now. And it just doesn't seem like it's really going too far. You got some black people, some actual reparations.
Well, the folks I'm fighting for would argue that it's not reparations because it's not these were not enslaved folks. These were entrepreneurs and people who owned their businesses and had it stolen. So the folks that I work for like to call it land restoration and reparative justice.
I love that. Okay. Now, it looks like you fired up and you're ready to go. You're very passionate about this thing. So I want you to give our audience a background about you, and tell us how we got here. How did we get from Bruce's Beach to Where's My Land? Talk to us. What sparked your passion for this activism and this advocacy?
Well, yeah, I've been an activist for a very, very long time, probably over a decade now. And a lot of it started when I sued an organization I used to work for, Discrimination and Retaliation. And the lawsuit kind of, took the veil from off of my eyes and allowed for me to see what it looked like, what racism and discrimination looked like in real time, and how, the cards are stacked against Black folk as it relates to that. And so one of the things I decided to do was to write about it. That's where I started performing my poetry more often than I used to as a youth. But the lawsuit it had me muffled because I couldn't talk about it. But then I was also angry and I needed an outlet. So poetry did that for me, right? And I just started writing poetry about, unarmed Black people being killed by the police. And because it was just something that bothered me, and the pieces just kind of came to me as if I was a vessel used to, deliver these messages that our people needed to hear at the time. But for me, it was too emotionally draining, and I just felt like the words weren't making enough of an impact because Black people were still being killed in the streets, right? And so I knew that the change had to come from policy, right? That would hold folks accountable. But in any case, I was exhausted from it and performing these poetry pieces. And so what I decided to do was to allow for the opportunities I'd gotten through poetry, like acting, to kind of focus more on that. And so I did a lot of theater stuff on the East Coast. I'm from New York City, Harlem specifically.
Wait, well, hold on. You from Harlem?
Hold on. That's how she was able to pull this off.
Yeah, all right. You talking to some Brooklyn natives right here.
We from Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn.
Yeah, New York. You got to have that New York fight.
Right.
Yeah.
To make something like that happen. But, when I moved to California, the whole goal was for me to just go into Hollywood and act and just escape, right? From the realities. At least that's what I thought. And then I moved to Manhattan Beach, knew nothing about the place. But I learned really quickly how racist it was, because the first week after I moved there, I literally had him next to me in the park and asked me what family I nannied for.
Wow.
Right? Because I had to be the help. A Black person in Manhattan Beach, you can't afford it. You got to be the help. So, I learned very early on what it was, but for the most part, I stayed to myself until George Floyd was murdered. I was like, here we go again. Right. I was livid, and there was no, I was tired of writing poetry about it. And I was just really hurt, right? Like here we are 10 years later in terms of like when I started my advocacy, and we were still begging for the same thing, for them to not kill us, for them to be held accountable for killing us, right? And so my goal was to just like vent, because we were all stuck in the house from the pandemic, because of the pandemic. So I started posting on these in these mom Facebook groups that I was a part of about how Black lives really didn't matter, and just venting and just, I don't know what I was looking for, but I remember my posts were being deleted. And so were all the other Black mothers. And I remember a group of, multiracial women just standing up and being like, this is not right. Why are you deleting these Black women from posting about this stuff? Especially if you're not deleting our posts as white women. Right. Or Latin women or whatever. And so, they all was just like, well, we don't do politics here. And so we decided to leave the group and started our own group. But before I started a different group, anti-racist movements around the South Bay. Someone has sent me a blog post on racist ass next door. Excuse my language. I don't know if I should be cursing on here, but someone sent me a blog post about Charles and Willa Bruce and what had happened to them. And I didn't pay it any attention. I just was just like, I can't really focus on this if I'm so focused on, just Black people being murdered. I didn't have space, right? For any more trauma. And I'm an empath, so I take it all in. And then, when I started that group, another person sent me the same blog post. And I'm like, why am I being sent this twice in such a short period of time? And I look at that as a sign. And I was just like, maybe I need to read it. And I did. And then that blood started boiling again. And I was just like, this is not right. How do I live in this city? And at that point for 3 years, and did not know that Black people, Black entrepreneurs, were essentially co-founders of this very white town. I just I didn't understand it. And so I felt like I wasn't alone, but that folks needed to learn about the true history of their community. So I decided, along with some other members of that group, to have a picnic on Juneteenth of 2020. And that picnic is where it started. I met the family. And I just remember a reporter asking me what I wanted to see happen, what I wanted to see changed. And I was like, well, I want to see the plaque change, because you could tell it was just inaccurate and incomplete. And I said, but I also want to see policy change that would deed the land back to the family. Had no idea that it would happen. Had no idea when it would happen. If it happened. That was just what I knew I wanted to see.
That's why we were calling you a legend, because I'm like, what made you think you could pull this off? Like, what resources did you have available to you?
None. I was actually unemployed at the time.
Wow.
We were in COVID. At the time I owned a vending machine company, and all of my machines were in buildings that were shut down. So I had no reason. We did this with nothing but passion and just a sense of purpose. And for me, it was just like, I don't know how this is going to happen, but everything I did, I became infatuated with it. Like, how can we do it? And then I'm a very creative person. So it's just like, how can we creatively make this happen? Like, what can we do legislatively? What can we do legally? But what can we do to bring more awareness to the family and motivate and empower them to help create the change I wanted to see. And so that's what it was, just the everyday calling. I felt like I was called to it. And, the right people came at the right time. I had people volunteer, and everyone served their purpose. It wasn't done alone, but the right people came. And that's how I knew every day I was reassured and got confirmation that it was what was supposed to happen, especially because all the policymakers, like, we think about the County Board of Supervisors, Janice Hahn and Senator Steve Bradford and, Al Marasucci, those progressives were there ready to make that change.
Okay.
Right. And so it took those people being there in that place at that time to help see this through. Right. So that was confirmation for me. The fact that there was support there, that was confirmation for me that I was on the right track.
So you speak about Senator Bradford. I know he authored that bill, the 796 bill. Did you have any hand in helping him? And I believe he was part of the reparations task force. So Were you involved in that whole process with his team?
There was no need for me to really be involved. The only involvement I had was making sure that they knew what I wanted to see, and that was the land transfer to the family. And so it was just a matter of them changing state law that did not allow for land to be transferred to individuals. Mm-hmm. It could be transferred to other government entities, just like it was transferred from Manhattan Beach to the state, then later to the county. But the policy didn't allow for it to be transferred to an individual. And that was the only thing they needed to change. And of course, the taxes and making sure that the family aren't held, accountable for the tax burden and all that. But our part was more so rallying up people in the community and media to cover these city council meetings and when the vote was on in the committee and it was being voted on, like the bill was in the committees and being voted on. It was just like rallying everyone up to be able to just say, support this bill. Mm-hmm. And it was supported in both the Assembly and the Senate unanimously. It was
like a 38-0 count, something like that, right?
It was unanimous. It wasn't just in the Assembly or in the House or in a specific committee. It was in every necessary committee in the Senate and every necessary committee in the House. So,
how big is your team? I'm really interested in how you pulled it off, because honestly, if somebody had told me about this, I'd be like, oh, there's no way in the world they're going to get this to go through. I'm also baffled how I didn't get this information. Like, I'm a person that reads news and everything like that. And I don't know if it's because we're on the East Coast, but like, I don't know how it slipped me.
Yeah, and I was wondering that too. Like, this is historical. How did anybody not know?
It's sad because it's sad. The erasure is sad. Like, we had to fight for them to even include justice for Bruce's Beach and our role in this fight. Like, every day we were being omitted. CNN omitted us. Like, a lot of news outlets omitted us. Mm-hmm. And so that must have been the problem. And I thought the same thing. Like, how did we just make history? This is the first time in history that land is going to be transferred back to a Black family. And why is the organization responsible for that not being recognized?
Right.
I didn't understand that. I still don't understand why Black outlets like Ebony, Essence, Jet, and all those covering it. That baffles me right there.
Right.
I don't know. I can't answer. I forgot what the whole question was. I
thought urban media or something like that would have been all. Right. If at bare minimum would have been all over.
I know Atlanta Black Star covered it. They did it. Kavon did a good article on it. But my team, like, initially it started out with just me and Kai. We started by, after I left that group that I helped form the anti-racist movement around the South Bay, I left them because my life was being threatened and they didn't condone me having a gun. And I'm like, well, I guess you're not the right people for me to fight this with.
Wow.
So one of the sisters who was a volunteer in that organization, Kai, she came over with me and I was just like, I need you to run social media. She was like, I got you. And then we, for a long time, did it by ourselves. And then once we started getting more coverage, we brought on 2 other individuals to help with like the community engagement portion of it and the PR portion of it. And so at most it was 4 people, but then we had volunteers.
Wow.
So maybe it's one of those things. Do you think that the county and the city really, I'm pretty sure with Bruce's Beach, has a lot of people with money there. I'm quite sure. So
Manhattan Beach, yes.
Yeah. So it's like did they kind of pull some strings to stifle this to not make that county look bad or make the city look bad?
The city of Manhattan Beach is racist.
Mm-hmm.
The people who sit on the city council is racist. And they fought us tooth and nail. They tried to make me out to be a terrorist. They tried to make me out to, what white people do when they're upset trying to get some justice. Right. Mm-hmm. They did all that to me. I actually don't even live in Manhattan Beach anymore because I didn't feel like it was safe for me and my child.
Right.
They refused to even apologize, so it's like,
I was going to ask that.
The city was good for nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But what they did to the Bruces in the beginning, they were good. Like, you could count on them to be racist. And it's sad because here we are 100 years later and that's still the city. And you know that because, the city had, at the time when I lived there, we were less than 1% of Black people. I can't imagine. It's probably like 5 Black people. I'm joking, but yeah, Black people don't feel comfortable there.
Right.
And they make it so that most of us can't really afford to live there. You know, all those homes that people live in, I bet you white people can't afford to live in them either, but they live in them because they've been passed down from generation to generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they had the opportunity to receive generational wealth. Meanwhile, the Bruces didn't.
Can you elaborate on the whole death threat thing? I mean, like, were people calling you or somebody approaching you? Or
more online than anything, and it was by the city, the mayor at the time, Suzanne Hatley.
Okay.
I was Amy Coopered by my neighbor, and the police were involved in making sure that she went to the court with no proof, ensure that my gun was taken from me. But then when it was time for her to show evidence, she had none, so they threw it out, you know, but it's stuff like that, right? Just the constant trauma associated with just demanding equity and equality.
Almost got a taste of what the Bruces went through, just like a lighter version of it. You know?
Seriously.
Yeah, and I was just, as you were talking, you know, wheels is turning, and I'm thinking to myself that one of the reasons they would stifle a story like this is because it would spark the interest of other individuals to say, hey, maybe I got some land out here.
I mean, I started the national organization after, you know, getting the success of the Bruces, and that was because we had so many people asking for help. And I was like, I gotta scale up. There's no way I can do this as a local grassroots movement. I have to do it more, you know, be more strategic and organized and have more of an infrastructure in place. And so now we're close to 400 submissions. So of course they're scared that more families are going to ask for help. They didn't even want the Bruces are still, the county is currently in litigation now because of some white racist lawyer in Palos Verdes who decided to sue them for making the transfer happen. The transfer hasn't even officially occurred yet because they're still in litigation.
Because they were saying that it's estimated to be, a little about $75 million for that whole.
Yeah, for that block.
For that block. Wow.
That's what it is now. I mean, if you think about going back from the time those people owned that land to now, all the money that they would have made, you know, 75 million, I guess is what it's worth now. But, you know, all the money that they've lost over the years is like.
Right. And it's right. And to your point, it's not so much just all of the money they lost from that land, but think about the money they would have reinvested in other properties and bought other properties to make more money in other businesses. You know, you can't even, I don't know. How many
lives it would have changed, you know? Yeah.
I don't even think that can be quantified.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. But as I'm looking at this and I've kind of felt, listening to your story, I was thinking about the movie. I read the book too, Malcolm X autobiography, and it was talking about how when he got out of jail and he came to Elijah Muhammad, he came to the mosque, and he was just like so like upset because there was not enough people around the movement. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, you know, this is a movement that I think like urban media, I mean, a lot of people should be behind, and it should be, you know, pumped like crazy. You know, all out, you know, I mean, how does a regular person be a part of something like this, you know?
You know, they can submit their information through our website, www.whereismyland.org. We'll figure out how they can help us and volunteer, or they can donate. We need more money, right? We have all these families that are waiting for help, but we have to build up capacity to be able to help them. And so I think, and then just get the word out, right? Get the word out.
How was the family? I mean, like during the process, I mean, over the years, I mean, have they got to a point where like they felt defeated, like willing to give up, or?
First of all, I don't think that they even fathomed that they could get the land back. So that was
right.
Goals. I think their goal was to, you know, have the plaque, you know, the park named after them, which they did back in, I believe, 2007.
Right.
And then maybe they thought that perhaps they would get some money, but I don't even think they fathomed that they could get land back. So I think that when they saw that this was about to happen, they were just like in awe and happy, of course, ecstatic. So, yeah. Did
you get some new family members y'all ain't seen in a while? When you thought about that? Did you see some new family members that y'all haven't seen in a while? That when you started talking about this money, or
comment.
I got you.
I wanted to ask you though, when Governor Newsom signed that bill, how did you feel putting in all this work? How did it make you feel? He signed that
bill, and then when he called me up and was like, and likened me to Gandhi and MLK and Cesar Chavez, I was like, yeah. definitely like really, really happy. And I remember at that moment at the press conference when he pulled me up, I just looked at every single camera and was just like, because that for me, that was just like a F you to Manhattan Beach. And to all those people, us in the process of trying to make it happen, it's like, now what? We did what?
Right.
Yeah, and I seen that Harlem just come out of you right there.
Yeah.
Head bop and everything.
Never gonna lose that Harlem, honey.
Don't lose it. Don't lose it. That's wonderful.
I have another question. As far as like, the fact that the city owned the land, it seemed like that's kind of like an easy process. I mean, I'm gonna say an easy process, not an easy process. I'm saying I could see where that would be more feasible, being as opposed to like what happens if it's like residential, like if some, you know what I mean? Like if
the county owned it. I see what you're saying.
Right. I apologize. Yeah, the county, right.
Easy. And that's the thing. That's the thing that we're talking about with our families. Like there are going to be situations where you may not be able to get the land restored. So what do you want? And for them is restitution. What is, what would have been the value of the land had it, today, had it not been stolen, stuff like that. So restitution comes in different ways. It's not always restoring the land, because in some cases you can't just take the land back.
Right. And I'm saying that's because I was thinking like if it was, a property or something like that's been transferred through so many hands over the years, like how would you step to someone that owns the property now and say, or the land now and say, you owe us, like where does that money come from?
We would hold the initial entity or individuals who benefited from the theft. We would hold them accountable.
Okay.
And in a lot of cases, these families don't want to take it from the people that own it now because it's not their fault, right? It's not their fault that the land was sold to them and they didn't know that it was stolen land. Right. So why would we do something to others that, we didn't like happening to us? But there are other recommendations for remedy that they come up with.
I wanted you to touch on something too, because I looked at an interview that you were on in regards to funding and getting funding from certain individuals and all. You explained the whole situation and you kind of was like, look, I'm kind of selective about where I'm getting my funding from because the agenda might switch.
Yeah, I saw the Harlem come out of you in that little video too. Like,
you had to back that thing. It's like, hold on a minute. I'm selective because the agenda. And what is funny, the reason why I mention this, Kavon, is because most people who are asking for funding don't say stuff like that. So and that's a real statement.
No, I was just going to say, because I'm extremely mission driven. So what good is the money if I can't execute the mission? If you're telling me I'm gonna give you this money, but you can't do A, B, C, and D, then what is the point of me taking your money? I can't do what I set out to do. Yeah.
And it's almost like they paying you to kind of like stifle certain parts of yourself.
Put me on the shelf.
Right.
That's why I didn't want to take anything with Bruce's Beach. We didn't. We was just like, we know what we want to do. We know it hasn't happened. We're going to get a lot of pushback. And what we don't want to see is someone telling us how to do it or why, or that we can't do it because their motives are different from ours,
You vet your situations. Anybody of some type of prominence come to you and say, I like your cause, I like what you're doing, not just for the Bruce's Beach situation, but just for Where's My Land, to say, look, I'm feeling what you're doing, here's some money. I can see from your face where this answer is going.
There was one individual who wants to remain anonymous because they've already got a huge target on their back. One individual gave us $100K.
And the reason why I mention this, Kavon, is because we put this stuff out here, and I'm speaking to those that spend money in a Gucci store and they don't want you to run your business or put a diamond in your forehead and say Black excellence, but won't actually donate to somebody that's like this, organization.
Exactly.
I actually was going to ask, like, because I seen in the interview where you were talking about like eminent domain, and I was looking at a documentary recently about the Brooklyn Nets coming to New York and how they kind of used eminent domain to force a lot of people out of their homes in that area. And we from that area in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, like, how do you feel about that as far as like, it's still going on? We're
dealing with some cases here in California where it's still going on. Land taken, property, 4 pieces of property taken from a Black man, a former, professional basketball player. Mm. It's happening. It's still happening. It just looks different. The means, except for eminent domain, it still exists, right? People can still, but it's not just with eminent domain. It's in so many other ways to take from us, not just our lives, but our property. And so I am, that's the same thing that happened in Harlem. Look at how they gentrify that area.
Wow.
Call it urban renewal, right? They make it so that the black folk who live there, who developed the culture of that city, that can't even be there anymore. So Harlem is not the same.
Yeah. Brooklyn too, not the same.
Yeah, Brooklyn too. So if you're asking me how I felt, I don't give a fuck about the Nets in the stadium. I don't care. I care more about black people having roofs over their head. You look at how many unhoused black people there are in this country. It's ridiculous. But you got money to build all these stadiums.
Right.
Our stadium here in LA.
And then it kind of removes the culture out of the neighborhood. Don't get me wrong. I like to see some good things come out of it and people get jobs and stuff like that. But when we go back to our old neighborhood, it's not our old neighborhood.
It's our old neighborhood.
Because we're not there, right? If I had to choose between a stadium being built and making the neighborhood more beautiful and providing more jobs over black people having homes and being able to stay and be consistently in the communities that they were brought up in, I would choose the latter. Something was messed up too is as big as these stadiums are, they have time, space, and opportunity to set up shelters in those stadiums when it's not being used.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Right.
Come on now. Think about the SoFi Stadium in Inglewood here. You got all these unhoused people in California, but you got that big ass stadium that you spent millions, probably billions of dollars for, and space because you're not playing all the time. So why can't it be used to house people? Stuff like that. Like we have to reimagine how we utilize these spaces, especially when people ain't got homes.
Right.
And they're living under bridges and tents.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you where the priorities are.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, nobody cares about our culture. But I even noticed, like, even in Brooklyn, like, whereas, like, in our neighborhood, not only do they take the neighborhood, like, they'll take the old businesses and buy the business and then move in and then act like if they were there, like they're the original owners or something like that. You know what I mean? Like the beef patty store, I know who the guy owned that store, you know what I mean? Like, but now you take it and there's white people working behind there, and which I don't got a racist bone in my body, but the fact that you take over the business and then act as if like you were there from the beginning is crazy. You know what I mean? Right.
It's like being deceptive to the community. But then also let's think about the people who sold out. Why didn't you sell it to white people? Why didn't you keep it amongst black people?
Right.
Like it's stuff like that. I just like.
I think a lot of times people like the money is too good.
Yeah.
The money is too good, in most
that
cases.
That perpetuates the cycle, right? When you think about the money is too good, it's too good because white people have more of it, and they have more of it because of the shit they've done to us. And because they used us, they build off of the backs of our ancestors. They build. So that's why they have more money, and they get to benefit from that by buying another black business.
It's about to go Angela Davis on us right now.
It's a good thing, though.
That's a good thing. No.
All right. So where's my land? Where is my land? I keep saying, where's my land? Where is my land? And I know you co-founded that with Ashanti Martin.
I did.
You did? Why is she not on this show today? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Right. I'm just kidding. We gotta get y'all back on here, to discuss. I'm trying to put this thing out here, Kavon. More people need to know about this.
That's right. Yeah, I want to bring some more families out. Like, definitely, we should focus one of the segments on one of the families.
I would love that, and I'm quite sure Dre agree with me too. Have you had any more people reach out to you as of recent? Like, where's my land? To say, look, we're trying to, is it mostly in the South? Because I always think about that too.
No, I mean, well, the Midwest and the South equally. But there's a lot of cases I didn't even expect on the East Coast as well. And there's a lot of places out here in California that
really?
Still.
Because we was talking about that last night. And I was like, man, like you wouldn't expect that.
Central Park.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I heard a story about that whole situation.
Ruffin cracked that thing wide open.
Seneca Falls, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Populated, another place stolen from black folk.
What about Oklahoma? Do y'all... that whole situation with Black Wall Street and everything like that.
All that. I remember learning about Black Wall Street, I must have been about 19 or 20. I know I was in college.
Right.
And I remember finding out about it on 125th Street in Harlem. You know how they used to have the black vendors out there, the book. I don't know if they're still there now, but.
Oh, yes. I was there last week.
I remember going to the library, not being able to find it anywhere in the library. I was just like, I'm not going to pay for it. I'm going to check it out, you know?
Right.
Couldn't find it anywhere. And that's how I knew they were trying to hide the true history. And when I read that book, I was appalled. I kept, I remember writing about that in my reparations piece that I created about 5 years ago, because I never forgot about it. And so the fact that 100 years later, they want to acknowledge it, it's book. What are you going to do? How are you going to make amends?
Yeah. Have any of those people contacted you or your organization? Because there's a lot of land that was lost out in that area. We
have had some folks comment. I can't really delve too deeply into but yes, we have. This seems like a Oprah call right here, man. Like, you didn't get the call from Oprah yet, man? This seems like a documentary. You know who I'm waiting to hear for? I'm waiting to hear from Oprah. I'm waiting to hear from Jay and Bay. Yeah. I'm waiting to hear from some other folk. I believe it's going to happen soon, though, because I'm working on some stuff. Okay. Yeah, because I'm looking at this. I'm like, this will make a wonderful documentary. It'll make a wonderful movie. Mm-hmm. So on and so forth. I get you. I get you. Hey, we'll see you on Netflix soon, I guess.
Don't let them tone that thing down, Kavon.
I got you.
Don't let them tone it down. Don't do that.
You go ahead. We could end it now.
Yeah.
I just
because that face.
Trying to get that money up.
I'm trying to help more people.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it's about.
We get some donations in. I don't know who you guys have. You had any celebrity folks reach out to y'all? Do you know of any of them who listen?
Well, we got friends.
Yeah. All right.
We got friends, And we grew up in Brooklyn. Just like you grew up in Harlem. It's always one person away from some money. You know what I mean?
Right.
But see, this is the importance of this whole thing, is like to exchange this information, because a lot of people didn't know about it. So now that they know, and I like your idea, though, to have one of the family members come on, because I think that would really push the narrative more, I
think we should have an East Coast family member come on.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Man, I'm down.
Some time, though. Let me
figure it out.
Figure some stuff out. Maybe around Juneteenth. Maybe around.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah. All right. So you got a platform, yeah?
Let me tell you something, honey. Right. Please check back in once in a blue moon, because I be forgetting sometimes.
Right.
And I don't do all my social media. I don't do any of my media reach out.
Yeah.
We just put them on. We put out a press release, and then whoever grabs it. But please check back in and be like, hey. And I'll be like, oh, yeah.
All right. So you said Juneteenth.
Mommy. Mommy, reach back out maybe in May.
Right.
Something on the calendar, okay?
All right, that's what's up. So let me just say once again, I'm gonna let you go because I know you're busy saving these lands and all. All right, so
we appreciate you.
We really appreciate you. So please let the people know where they can reach you at. All right?
They can find us on Instagram, all social media at Where's My Land, and then www.where'smyland.org.
All right, and we thank you. The Only One Mic podcast is available on all major platforms that you stream your pods on. Please don't forget to rate the show and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to get in contact with The Only One Mic, you can reach us via Instagram and Twitter at The Only One Mic P1, Facebook and LinkedIn at The Only One Mic Podcast, and tap us on the email, theonlyonemic00@gmail.com. Thank you once again, Kavon. I really appreciate it. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Take care of yourself.
All right.
Take it easy, man.
Okay. I always say, speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant, because they too have their story to tell. We really appreciated Kavon's time. And as always, I say, you never had to run from the Ku Klux Klan, and we shouldn't have to run from a black man. Peace.
Peace.